Hey folks, I'm Tennessee Brando with the MeidasTouch Network. I've got another great clip for you guys today of Justin Jones out of Tennessee. Justin is one of 3 Tennessee lawmakers who was expelled earlier this year and dubbed the Tennessee Three. Since then, they've been reinstated, and Jones and Pearson have both won their seats. Gloria Johnson is now running against Marsha Blackburn here in Tennessee, so that definitely makes people like me here in Tennessee feel like there's a little bit of hope for some truth and some common sense back here in Tennessee. I realize that a lot of times we are a laughing stock on the political stage, but now we've got 3 main players that are out there telling it like it is and standing up for the truth. And Justin Jones in this clip gives me hope one more time, and I appreciate him for it. He says we're moving away from the audacity of hope, and we're moving toward the hope for some audacity. Take a look at this clip, and then let's come back and talk about it.
Trying to change our state, and they're afraid of that. But they're on notice now that, Republicans, anytime they don't get their way, they retaliate. We see what Sexton's doing. We see what Trump's doing. We see this very weak fragility of white supremacy. But what they don't know is that we also stand in the legacy of liberation, that we're going to resist them, that we're going to speak truth to power, and we're moving from this idea of the audacity to hope for some audacity. We're going to be bold and clear in pushing against these extremists and, standing clear like we saw the folks did in Montgomery. So,
what do you want to see happen at this special session about gun reform in 2 weeks?
This special session, we hope that the voices of Tennesseans will be heard. Over 70% of Tennesseans, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, are calling for universal background checks, safe storage, a ban on high-capacity magazines and assault weapons. So we're hoping that the governor will have some courage. He released his proclamation today. It was very weak, but he needs to stand and keep his promise to covenant families, that we're going to pass laws that protect kids and not guns, that we're not going to put our children's lives for sale to the NRA and the Tennessee Farms Association. So we hope that Speaker Sexton will not obstruct democracy once again, but that he'll listen to the people and allow the process of democracy to play out and not try to intimidate his members from voting on common sense gun laws. And I hope that my Republican colleagues will act, because their cowardice is killing us. It's killing our children. It's making us live in this war zone in our communities. And so I hope that they have courage to act, not just for this generation, but for the generations who are looking to us to lead in this moment.
I absolutely love that we're moving away from the audacity of hope to the hope for some audacity. That means so much to people here in Tennessee, because we remember hearing Congressman Tim Burchett stand up and say that we ain't going to fix it. There's nothing we can do to fix it. So to have Justin Jones stand up and say, no, we're going to hope for some audacity. We want people to have the audacity to stand up to the gun violence, stand up to the gun manufacturers, and demand some real change. But for those of you that aren't from my part of the world, I grew up right on the border of Kentucky and Tennessee and Virginia. My whole life, small town. I know a lot of people looks at this part of the world from other places and says, why are those hillbillies so obsessed with their guns? Why is this such an issue? And I can tell you that growing up in this part of the world, guns is a really big part of our culture. We're raised up around them. We're always hunting in the mountains. I can remember being a little kid. I don't even remember if I was in school yet. That's how young I was. I just remember my grandfather getting down on one knee behind me, embracing me, and warning me that it was probably going to hurt my shoulder. And he allowed me to shoot his shotgun, and I remember being so proud that I was able to hit the target, with his help, of course. But my grandfather and my dad always taught us common sense. They always taught us to keep them locked in a safe. They always taught us to never point them at anyone. They always taught us the basic safety of them. And my dad was always a person who, even though was one of the best shots I've ever seen and carries a weapon anywhere he goes, he's still a guy that believes in common sense gun laws and common sense gun reform. But in this part of the world, it's just become such a part of our culture. And guns have become heirlooms in this part of the world. One of the first things that gets said when your granddaddy dies is, who's getting granddaddy's guns? Who's going to get those? They become these things that get handed down, and they're treated very sacred in this part of the world. And then, my entire life, I heard people saying, you better not vote for the Democrats, they're coming for your guns. I can remember it as far back being a little kid when Bush was running against Dukakis, and I remember people saying, don't vote for Dukakis, he'll take your guns. Then don't vote for Bill Clinton, he'll take your guns. Then we had the assault weapons ban in 1994, and people were saying, see there, Clinton's coming after your guns. And then it was Gore's coming after your guns, and John Kerry will come after your guns, and Obama will come after your guns, and now Joe Biden. It's always been something that's said, and it strikes fear in Southern people, because there is also this distrust that Southerners have, that it's inbred in us from the time we're born. It's just something that a lot of us have had to grow up. We've had to face a lot of uncomfortable truths. We've had to learn about our history and face our history head on. It's not easy for a lot of them to move away from it. Some of us are able to. Some of us are able to see how that certain things we were taught, handed down over generations, just flat wasn't the truth. Some of us can see through it, but some of us have a hard time coming to grips with that. And to come to grips with that, you have to say that your grandparents who you loved, your grandparents who you respected, might have handed you down something that wasn't true. And so then to hear that there's this group of people coming for your granddaddy's heirloom, for what was handed down to you and was treated as being sacred, it struck this fear and this paranoia in people that the Democrats was that evil party that was coming after the guns. And that's something that's hard to face in this part of the world. That's why it's good that we have Jones, Pearson, Johnson here in Tennessee speaking up and standing up against gun violence and standing for common sense gun reform. That's what we need in this world now more than ever. And I love how that Jones calls it for what it is. He calls them not standing up cowardice. I love that. It's time that we go ahead and say that out loud. You know, we can't keep sugarcoating this. It is our children's lives that are at stake. And for the right wing to sit and talk so much about the children and how much they care about the children, it's time that they quit going after these phony straw men, boogeymen that they create. It's time that people stops getting all bent out of shape over drag queens and realizes your children, it's their lives that are in danger. They should be able to go to school and they should be able to get an education. If they are our future, that is the one place where they should be. They should absolutely feel the safest is in that place. And to the people in my part of the world who hold on to these guns like they're sacred objects, like their granddaddy's heirloom that's been handed down to you and you're supposed to protect it at all costs, this is what I would say to you. We're talking about an instrument that can take a human life in a matter of seconds. Anyone can walk in and take another person's life in a split second with this weapon. One pull of the trigger and it's over. And you're okay with just anyone having that weapon. I'll tell you something else that good old boys in my part of the world cherish. They cherish their trucks. Everybody loves to go buy them a new pickup truck and drive it around town with their big flags flying off of it. And I guarantee you that if I went over to a grocery store in town and I parked next to one of these trucks and I backed into it with no insurance on my vehicle and hit them, they would raise mortal hell and say, how dare this guy hit my truck? How dare this guy do this? He has to be held accountable for this. Who's going to pay for my truck? Yet he's okay with someone having an instrument in their hand that can take the lives of a person in a split second. You say guns aren't the problem, that people are the problem. Well, if people are the problem, people don't need to have guns. It's that simple. No one is saying that you don't have the right to protect yourself. No one is saying they're coming to take away your Second Amendment rights. Well, what we are saying is it's time for common sense. And like Justin Jones said, we do need universal background checks, safe storage, high-capacity magazines, and assault weapons needs to be banned. Those are the things we need to move toward, and there has to be compromise. You can't come at us saying that you're not going to fix it. When my child cannot go to school without living in fear, you don't get to get off the hook by saying, I ain't going to fix it. But he needs to be afraid of this drag queen. He needs to be afraid of this Mr. Potato Head. We're sick and tired of the culture wars. We're sick and tired of the bullshit. We want to see something done. And luckily, here in Tennessee, we finally have 3 that are standing up and fighting the good fight against this madness that we're facing. I commend Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, Gloria Johnson. I'm proud to know the Tennessee 3. I'm proud they're out there fighting the good fight. But we have to hold people accountable, and they're doing so, and they're calling the cowardice for what it is. And we have to say to these people, you've got to stand up and do something. We ain't going to fix it. Let me tell you something. If I was at my job and I was given a task to do, and my boss walked in and said, did you get this accomplished? And I said, no, we ain't going to fix it. I would be shown the door. So it's time that everybody gets fired up. And when people in my part of the world votes next time and you see Tim Burchett's name on the ballot, you need to show him the door because he already said, I ain't going to fix it. So if you're not even going to try, you're not even going to come to the table, and you're not even going to talk about it because you're so deep in bed with the NRA, then to hell with you. And I stand by what I said. Folks, be sure to hit that subscribe button here on MeidasTouch. Share these videos. We're growing more and more by the day, and I'm proud to be a part of it. So until next time, I'm Tennessee Brando. You guys keep tuning in here. I'll keep telling you the truth.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.